Yo, what's going on, guys? The Worst Build Diver here. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Gundam 00 Sky Mobius, which is Riku's mobile suit from Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise. So I really wanted to do a speed build of this kit, but I ended up botching the video with ways that we just won't talk about. So today we're just going to do the first Worst Build Diver kit review on the high grade here. So let's take a look at everything that comes in the box first. So firstly, on the box, of course, there's a picture of front and back of the mobile suit, and then just some information that is all in karate. Actually, here's the English down here. But yeah, it's just a blurb about the show and the mobile suit itself. On the side, it's just the same art as the cover. And then, you know, we have some poses here, and then, of course, it has the ads for, like, Kit Bash, whatever, you know, so on and so forth. It, you know, shows off some articulation that is unique to this kit. Then, of course, inside you just have your standard manual. It's one of these kind of like fold-out manuals. You have one sticker sheet here. I used all of them on this kit. There's only like, looks like about 8 stickers on this, but yeah, got this foil sticker sheet, very nice. Now, this kit comes on a whole lot of runners, and like I mean a whole lot of runners, because this kit packs in a lot actually for what it is. So let's count. We have 1, 2, 3, and move this one off to the side. We'll get that later. 4, 5, 6, 7, very little one, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 runners for this high grade kit of all things. This A runner here comes with some spare parts, so you can make it more like a regular 00 Sky with the or maybe it might actually just be even the 00 Diver, I mean. But yeah, we have the clear parts, so you can do like a sort of clear build on your other ones if you want, but I didn't use them here. And there actually does come with clear shoes as well, so you can have like glass slippers almost. So taking a look at the mobile suit itself, here it is in all of its glory. This is the 00 Sky Mobius. So as far as looks wise goes, this is of course just a color swap of the 00 Sky and the Higher Than Sky phase. This one of course is just an all white, this sort of like cream. I don't know if it's hard to tell because of my light here, but it's sort of like a muted white alongside like this sort of like cream-esque sort of color with the blue accents, of course, and it does have the scar, which I did panel line. This is what the kit looks like out of the box, just snapped together, cleaned up with just a little bit of panel lining, which I used the Tamiya accent color for. Overall, I love the design of this kit, just the 00 Sky in general, but this one in particular is just really, really clean looking. So yeah, let's back this guy up, let's get all the accessories out, and let's look at everything that comes in the box. So as you can see here, this guy comes with a lot of stuff. Back here we have the green clear effect parts that you would have saw on the Higher Than Sky phase if you bought that kit. We have 2 beam sabers, we have an extra widespread hand here, we have the long rifle, we have these 2 armed wing binders with some beam effects to go with them because they do have a bit of a transformation. We have an extra rifle here, which is like an extended version of these 2 beam rifles, and then of course we have the gigantic Buster Sword, which unfortunately this kit does not come with a beam effect for this Buster Sword, which is kind of a little bit of a letdown. I know the Higher Than Sky phase did actually come with the beam effect. I do have an Infinite Justice Gundam though, and I did try to use this part here that goes on the wings to see if it would slot into the Buster Blade, but the Buster Sword has a different style. It's like the same kind of style of beam effect, but it's a bit shorter, which is unfortunate that I couldn't just use that. But so if you want a Buster Sword part, you're gonna have to buy Higher Than Sky phase. Sorry. So we'll just quickly go through and take a look at all this stuff here. We'll actually start with the back row here, and then we'll move our way forward. So this kit comes with 2 of these here, sort of like effect parts that are just like this big blast for like propulsion, if you will. It does look really nice in this sort of clear green with the bit of glitter there. I imagine under a black light this kit probably looks insane, which I unfortunately do have one, but I don't know where it is. I would have to dig it out in order to put this guy under UV. However, yeah, we do have 2 of these. They clip onto the wings. I'll just roll some footage. These are, of course, very good for getting some really, really cool dynamic sort of flight poses if you would, you know, care to pose them like that. However, I will say when you do have both of these on and everything else attached to the backpack, it does make him a little bit back heavy. So he does kind of sag a little bit unless you get him in like just the right pose, which is good, of course, that you can get him in just the right pose so that won't happen, but unfortunately that is something that you do have to deal with. We have 2 of these sort of almost like attacking effect parts that can either clip onto the arms or the legs. So just to quickly show you what that would look like, just slot it in right here. And then of course you can have this sort of pointy, punchy-esque sort of effect going. You can do a lot of stuff with this as well. You can even turn it around if you care to do so, but the arm and the leg both have two separate positions. So you can clip it in down there and you can get a little bit more range out of it if you do want to keep him in some sort of martial arts-esque pose. As for the one on the foot, you can do it of course either way. You can go like this, or you can go, you know, this way, and you do have to kind of bend the toe out of the way in order to get this on, but you just clip it in just like that. And then of course you can have some very kicky poses with that. This of course does have a gimmick where you can sort of pull it out. If I can get it to go, it is a kind of a pain in the ass. So you can sort of slide it down and you can extend it out like that, so you can get like even more out of this as well, which is nice that you do have that bit of articulation. However, it does feel a little bit flimsy. It's quite sturdy right now because it does lock in, but if you were going to leave it like this, then it's kind of, you know, it slots on this little track here, if you will. But, you know, you put it back into position, you can just clip it back in, and you're good to go to get some flying kicks out of this guy. The only thing I will say about both of these parts here, these effect parts, is the plastic is kind of brittle. You can kind of tell, especially in person, when you even just give it a little flick like that. I will note that even just from opening the bag, I did snap the runner. However, it is just a runner, and I mean, obviously it's just very flimsy by nature, but you see what I'm saying? It seems like just a little bit amount of stress in these kind of just snaps. You just got to be careful with that, I guess, if you're gonna be posing them up high on your shelf, just in case. If he does take a tumble, you might lose those, so just watch out for that, I guess. Alright, so next, of course, we just have two just standard pink beam sabers that have this little slot here. So what you can do with these is you can take this part of his skirting armor off, and you can go ahead and just attach it to the beam saber like so, and it makes like a little bit of a hilt. And then of course it just slots on in and looks something like that whenever you get it on there. And of course you can wield both of these. Only thing about this is, unfortunately, there is really nowhere for you to store the beams, or the handles at least, whenever they're not in use. So you're kind of just going to have to fuck them off somewhere. So yeah. Next we have the long cannon, long gun. I think this thing's fucking awesome. It has two little handles that you can go ahead and fold out like this. So you can do one, or you can do both if you care to do so. And then you can kind of hold it in a very dynamic sort of double-handed, two-handed brace for impact sort of like railgun-esque thing. Or these can even attach to the back of the backpack, which I'll go ahead and show real quick. Actually, a lot of stuff in this kit can slot into the back of the backpack, just like the Buster Sword as well. So you can slot it in here. Oh, and he lost his hand. And you can sort of pull it out, and this will swing forward, and then you can have him kind of, you know, attached here as well. Or rather, you can have it attached, and then you can swing this out, and then of course open it up, which all the hands in this are this style of sandwich-esque hand. And I'm actually just going to leave them like this because I'm about to take this off, but yeah, you can have it like that as well. The only thing is, of course, this front section does kind of sag a little bit. It might just be mine though. However, this thing does look pretty awesome when it's attached like this with the under, you know, the under the shoulder type thing on the backpack. You can get a lot of cool stuff out of him. You can get him up on an action base, make a very sick sort of blowback-esque sort of pose. Now, as for why this does sag, it does have a bit of a transformation here. So you pull this out, swing this around, and then you can just sort of slide this part forward like so, and it just folds like that. And it can be stored like that as well on the backpack, just like this. And that's sort of the whole like dynamic of it, is like in the show he swings it forward and then it like folds out into this giant cannon. It gives you the classic like down the barrel at an angle anime pose whenever he does it. But yeah, it is pretty cool. A lot going on with this, but I guess it does lead to this having kind of a weak joint there, unfortunately. So clips in as well. So we have two of these guys in this kit here. They can slot together like so. So they can slot together like that, and they can be stored around the back right there on the butt, so you can sandwich them up. They do have little sight stickers in there as well. Or of course, these can simply just slot into the hand on either side, so you can have a very cool sort of dual wielding part going there. But as you can see, it does kind of get in the way of the sort of like forearm armor here. so mine did fly off when I put the gun on. But yeah, you can have this sort of double, again, sort of like some sort of falling dynamic, or even like some sort of like flying pose as well with him sort of coming at you like that with all the blast effects and stuff. It does look quite cool. And then the last thing of note with these is he does have like a top handle, so you can hold it like this if you ever would want to do that. So next we have these armed wing binders, is what they've called them on the manual here. These are actually really cool. There's a lot that you can do with these. The main purpose that they serve is, of course, they go on the backpack, which I will do now. So this is what they look like from behind on the backpack. We'll get a little bit of a rotation going there. So these actually have lots of functionality even outside of this. What they do on the box art, of course, is they have this little gimmick here where they can fold out like this, and you can sort of bring them under so that they're like extra cannons. So you can have like the footage that I had at the beginning of the video, you can have sort of that really cool pose that's on the box where he has the two rifles alongside these, kind of just chilling there as well underneath for just sort of like an all-out blast kind of thing going here. You can even just extend them and just bring them through like this on the hinge that is on the backpack, which obviously has a ton going on here, which we'll talk about whenever we look at the articulation of the kit. But yeah, there's even that as an option as well, at least while it's mounted on the backpack. So that looks quite cool if you ask me. And these blue sections here, as you can tell if I can get the camera to focus, these blue sections here I have panel lined, which I think really just looked awesome. I've panel lined pretty much everything on this kit, front and back. But yeah, this looks just so cool because it's sitting, of course, right next to the sort of forearm armor. And yeah, so we'll go ahead and see what else we can do with these. And there goes his leg. So with these here, this whole portion here can move. So the actual handle for these things is hidden right in here. It just slides out if I can get it to do so. What you can do with this is it can slot in right here, and this part can fold down, and it just sort of slots into his hand like that. And you can have sort of this big, just kind of like gigantic sort of looking beam rifle in addition to your 3 other beam rifles. Yeah, you can actually take your other rifles and you can simply just like sandwich it on this, so you can have like an even bigger beam rifle. The only thing is about that though is the wrist doesn't really want to hold that very well, so unless you're going to tighten that up with some sort of top coat or like a screw or something, you are going to be dealing with that. So the last thing that you can do with this bit is you can flip it around like this and stick it in there, and it'll become a bit of a sword handle. And then you can take this part here, swing that around and slot it in just like that to the back end. And then you can take one of these beam effects and it just slots into 2 points here and here, and you can make this really sort of sick looking beam saber. Let me just go ahead and look what this is called in the manual, because I do not remember. Well, I actually cannot find what they're called in the manual, so we're just going to call them the armed wing binder blades. So just like I said before, these can simply just slot down into the hand like this, and you get one hell of a cool weapon out of this. So of course you can have, you know, 2 of these going as well, do a lot of cool poses. From what it looks like in the manual, you can almost have like some sort of like twin blade kind of thing going. But yeah, these are just awesome. And however, the rifle with the armed wing binder attached made the hand sag. These actually, he has really no problem holding these. Then they just look so cool. So yeah, that is the armed wing binder blades. So the last thing we need to take a look at here is the Buster Sword. Like I said, unfortunately this does not come with a beam effect, so it is also just a bit of a pain in the ass to use, because you do have to, of course, undo the hand every time you want to equip him with this. And then of course you simply just put it in like so, and then you just sandwich the other part on, and there you go. However, it's just so loose. It's very unfortunate, but it is just super loose. And you know, again, it suffers kind of the same thing as the long rifle, the long cannon, whatever I called it earlier, where it has this sort of like folding mechanic, so that joint up there can kind of be a pain. Nevertheless, this is what it looks like while you have it equipped. It was actually a complete pain in the ass for me to get that pose earlier with him like that, with the sort of like the over the head swing that I got with him. But yes, there is your Buster Sword with no beam effect that the Infinite Justice Gundam does not help with at all. It is a very cool weapon, but it just is unfortunate that this version of the kit did not come with the beam effect. I guess they just didn't include the runner for that. But yeah, there you go. That is your Buster Sword and all of its pretty mediocre functionality, honestly. I mean, notably, I'm complaining about its looseness, but it does kind of, like, when you do get it into a sort of straight position, for the most part, it will sort of stay like that. So we can have some sort of like over-the-shoulder cloud strife type thing going on. So of course, like I mentioned earlier when we were looking at this, you just have to slot this out, and then it just kind of does the same sort of mechanism where this folds forward and this folds in. This, however, is not clicking for me, so maybe I have it on the wrong side, but again, this can also swing around to the back of the backpack and be slotted in there so that you can have it, you know, equipped and sort of ready to go. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Well, the sword is very cool looking. Stuff like that happens a lot. So okay, so we have looked at everything that comes in this kit, all of the accessories at least, except for this widespread dynamic hand, which I will do whenever we move on to the articulation. But first, let's do a little bit of size comparison, but let me get all this stuff out of the way first. Okay, so here we have the 00 Mobius next to a high grade RX-78-2, the Granddaddy Gundam, a little bit taller than that guy. Then we have the Hgbd Core Gundam 2 here. So of course you have Hideto's suit and Riku's suit, which is pretty funny to see those guys right next to each other. So yeah, of course it is substantially bigger than a Core Gundam. So next we have the Mobius next to the Revan Gundam, which actually they're kind of about the same size. The Mobius is a little bit taller, however this Revan is very geared up right now, and I just didn't feel like taking all of this stuff off. But yeah, we have the Revan here next to the 00 Sky Mobius. Here we have the Mobius next to the Shinji Ikari Special, the EVA 01, the high-grade version actually, so of course he is substantially smaller than that, seeing as how this kit is kind of like more of like a master grade size. And unfortunately I have not built a master grade yet, so here is the Mobius next to a master grade box. We have the Wing Zero here, the Verka edition, next to our tiny little 00 Sky. Yeah, I'll be getting around to that one. That'll be my first custom. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the articulation. This will be, of course, one of the last segments of the video. So we will go ahead and take a note out of Mecha Gaikotsu's book, and we're going to go from the head down. But first, let me take off this backpack, and we'll look at that individually. So I actually lied. It just makes a lot more sense to do the articulation with the backpack first, and then put the backpack back on and do the articulation with the backpack, seeing as how you would want to be posing it with the backpack on. So of course, with the backpack, we have two of these here, these two little sort of fins that can spin 360, and they can go out and back like so. So that's actually pretty good that you get that much range of motion and posability out of these. And of course, up here we actually have a whole ton going on. So this part opens up like this, when this can like open back even further. And of course, this is for attaching your effect part, the sort of like exhaust emission propulsion, whatever you want to call it, effect part. And then of course this is on a hinge as well, so that can go up and down, and it can also rotate 360, so that's quite cool. These arms here can also rotate 360, well, at least they would be able to, but the back end of the backpack here does get in the way of that, so you don't get the full 360 out of those unless you're doing some weird stuff like moving it forward. There we go, we can do it like that. You can move it forward like that and get 360 out of it. And of course this part is on a ball and socket, so you can get a bit of freedom, some good angles out of that as well, so you can get your full 360 rotation there as well. So yeah, the backpack actually is really neat on this kit, and you do have sort of a lot of options at your disposal with this little piece here, so it's very cool. So I guess as for finishing up with the backpack here, it actually does contribute to like some sort of form changes, I guess, if you will. So the backpack can slot, god damn it, it can pull out like this and go, you know, sort of like this extended sort of downward motion as well, and then you can simply just spin these guys however you want to do it. You can of course do it with this part or here or whatever. So yeah, you can end up with something like this, and this is what's called lash position, is what the manual refers to it as. It's like the melee form. I suppose it makes him more aerodynamic. I don't know, it's supposed to be like more ease of access to his weapons or something. I'm not really too sure. I suppose it just, you know, lets him have this like full range of motion here with his shoulders when in combat, at least for like the lore perspective. So yeah, it does look pretty cool. It does kind of change the entire aesthetic of the suit, and yeah, I kind of like him like this as well. So if you're going to be equipping those beam sabers and posing them like that, then I guess this is what the manual at least wants you to do. So yeah, that's that. Whenever we attach the arm wing binders, that is called like full burst mode or like something like that. High mat full burst mode is what the manual says that's called. So yeah. Anyway, moving on to the actual articulation, starting again from the head down. So this is going to be the head all the way up. This is going to be the head all the way down. So that actually makes him kind of look like a mono eye. To a degree, it almost makes him look like a completely different robot, something from almost like Power Rangers or something. That's pretty funny. Oh, and of course, I did not mention this earlier, but this is not the V-fin you're supposed to use with this. I'm going to actually go ahead and get the one you technically are supposed to use with this kit. So technically, you're supposed to use this V-fin. This is the one that's on the box, and this is the one that he's supposed to wear. But I honestly like the sort of like classic look a little bit better. But yeah, so basically, you just take that blue part out and slot it in here, and then this V-fin would go over him instead. But I'm not going to change it because I'm lazy. So this head joint here is of course on your sort of standard like polycap there, the double jointed one, so you can have a little bit of neck movement there as well for that sort of Quagmire-esque type thing. Here it is looking right. Here it is looking left. And it does go all the way around, just kind of has to maneuver its way around this sort of like turtleneck chin armor. So let's move this up just a little bit. So we have the shoulder here, which is just sort of like, God, these are terrible. Just fucking glue these. So we have the shoulder here, which is just on a ball and socket with just a little bit of a polycap. So this is the shoulder all the way up, and then of course all the way to the back, and it would go all the way around. If I just move this out of the way, it can do the 360, and there goes a hand. Full rotation here, of course, full rotation at the hand. Let me get this moving the right way. Here is the bend at the elbow, so not really that bad at all. Looks fairly decent actually with the bend at the elbow. And do we get anything going backwards? Yes, we do. What in the world is wrong with this thing? That is just unnatural. I guess it is a robot. As for the abs, we have just barely anything into the back. Again, just barely anything. But we do have, at least we should have, full 360. So speaking of the waist articulation, we have this, which is, you know, of course together, and it's a hinge. This here is on one of those like sort of ball polycaps, so you do get a lot out of the side, but it does want to come off, so we'll try to save it there before it does fall off. And the butt is actually paralyzed. You can kind of tell from the peg that the butt is going to be paralyzed. Here's the kick all the way to the front, so not bad actually. The kick all the way to the back, of course, is going to be very good because the butt flap fell off, so let's actually put that on so we can get a real kick. So let's try that again. Kick all the way to the back. Yeah, not nearly as good as it was when the flap was off. Actually, it's not, honestly, like, incredibly worse, but... So let's go ahead and go for the bend at the knee. We have a little bit of part separation there, which is cool. We do have a very good knee bend, actually, for some very good posing there as well. As far as full rotation, the leg falls off. That is something that I will say about this kit. The polycaps are pretty bad. So we have... Let's just move on to the ankle. We have all the way to the front, which isn't terrible. All the way to the back is not bad either. We do have sort of like a pseudo like toe bend here because it is on this sort of like weird. It is on this sort of like weird joint-esque thing here. But here we go with the leg going to the left. So that's actually pretty good. Leg to the right, that's actually pretty good as well. So you can get some sort of like skidding out sort of poses going for that, so that's pretty nice. More on the legs, we have this here, which can do a lot as well. That's on its own hinge. And then we already talked about how this piece of armor can sort of slide down, and the feet can do this sort of like clamp close kind of thing, but it's a little, you know, a little wonky if you ask me about all that. So for the most part, the articulation on this guy isn't terrible when his limbs want to stay together, but unfortunately that is one of the complaints about this kit, is the polycaps on this are kind of shit, so you are going to have to do something about that to tighten them up, so that is rather unfortunate. But let's just go ahead and get this guy put back together and go ahead and do our final thoughts on this kit. Oh, before I do that, I will mention that I did end up losing a piece of his shoulder there from when I was doing my panel lining. I guess the thinner just didn't really like this plastic very much, and it did cause it to crack, so maybe you're better off with a Gundam marker on this guy and an eraser, because that is rather unfortunate. I didn't even notice that while we were doing the entire review until just now, so if you noticed it before me, I'm sorry, I am an ape. Okay, so we finally made it through everything in this kit, and all in all, I had a lot of fun with this build and doing this video. You know, this kit really packs in a whole ton for it just being a $25 high grade. That's it, only $25 for this guy, and you get all of this stuff with tons of different poses and lots of accessory options as well. You can get really a lot of good stuff out of this, with its articulation being as good as it is, but of course the problem being that polycaps aren't the best. And I've kind of noticed that with a lot of the Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise kits that I've built recently, the polycaps just aren't as good as some of the stuff from even like the Iron-Blooded Orphans kits that I've done and so on. But it's not the worst thing in the world to be dealing with. A little bit of matte top coat or some super glue, just a very light coating, will solve this issue for you. Pretty much the way I look at this kit is, if you didn't buy any of the other 00 Skies and you're looking to get a 00 Sky, this is the one that you should get. And for me, honestly, this guy is going to be a very, very solid 4 out of 5. It does have its problems, which is what's going to keep it from being a 5 out of 5, but I love this kit. The next video that I'm going to post on this channel is going to be a speed build of the Gundam Anima Rize, the core Gundam from the spin-off manga, so that we can get the parts ready to do the Crystal Earth 3 armor once I get the Earth 3 in, which we'll probably do a build of that as well. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and build the cool looking red core Gundam with all of its amenities. We'll take a closer look at that next time. So I'll see you around, simps.